What's going on, guys? Thank you for tuning in to CRUZR Radio episode 35. I am your host, Michael Brandon, and today I'll be joined with my co-host, Mr. Hunter Harris. And our special guest for the day is one of the CRUZR Ambassador team members, Jonathan McCormick. He goes by RedBeard. You can find all of his links in the description below. And on today's episode, we talk about RedBeard's experiences hunting elk out in Utah and in the West in general. And we also talk about predator populations and are they a threat? Let's get into it. So we got connected, what was it, about a year ago?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Was it right before season of last year? Or it's been longer than that, hasn't it?
Yeah, it was probably summer, a little before summer of last year that we started talking. Just the idea of getting, because I was going to go whitetail hunting for the first time last year. Sorry, I said the first time with a bow and the real whitetail hunting. No,
yeah. Hey,
so
that's what I like to hear.
I was going for the first time and I was wanting to get that set up, but also I was running the idea, depending on where I was going to end up drawing out, of sitting water. That didn't work this last year for elk anyway, out west. That's a really good strategy for dry years.
Okay.
Last year we had some of the most moisture we've seen in a long time.
Gotcha.
And for people out there that hate the word moist, it was very moist in Utah. And so we had a lot of growth. Like there was a lot of grass everywhere, water everywhere, all through the summer, fall. So that didn't work out. I'm going to see how this year pans out. I might end up using the setup for elk again. But my plan is to go out to North Carolina again and knock down some does at least in November. Do some doe management and just get some more whitetails under my belt.
Heck yeah, man. That's awesome. And so you're, for all of our listeners, you're out of Utah, right?
Yes, sir. 10 minutes north of Salt Lake City, but I'm originally from North Carolina.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, what would you prefer? Do you prefer North Carolina or do you prefer Utah?
You know, when I got married to my wife out here, she's from this area that we live in, and I told her, I said, about 5 years into our marriage, we need to start looking at property back out east because I just miss it, right? And this was probably 12 years ago that we talked, or 11 years ago that we talked about that. And about 5 years in, she like held me. You know, I love women are awesome. My wife is amazing, but they've got memories like that, right? So you say something, they will remember it. And so it's like an alarm went off in her head about 5 years into our marriage, and she was like, so when are we looking at property? Yeah, and I was like, actually, that's not happening. So I fell in love with the mountains out here. And originally what had happened was I came out here, and it's a desert area. And even the mountains look kind of drab, even though I've got a gorgeous view of them. But until I got into them, they just look brown. They're brown, dry rocks. Like, it's just kind of like, okay, cool, it's a mountain.
Sure.
But once I got up into them, then I just fell in love with that and the public land out here. Like, I can drive 10 minutes east or west, and I could be in a spot where I can shoot my rifle, I can shoot my bow. Like, it's awesome. So
heck yeah.
Absolutely love that out here. And so just kind of fell in love with that. I miss aspects of it, and we go out once a year to a lake house that our family has, that we get to spend time with extended family for a week. But I don't know, the culture's, it's different. It's not bad or good, but it's different.
Sure.
And I prefer out here a little bit more.
Man, that's one thing about the United States that I love, and I feel like Americans kind of get hate for like not traveling abroad and like visiting all these cultures to see all these different landscapes and whatnot. But you can pretty much access almost every single type of biome within the United States.
Oh yeah.
Now the Utah section of the United States, they're just the middle, right? The entire middle of the United States. Like I've driven as far west as like into Oklahoma and down into Texas.
Yeah, that's me.
And then
Oklahoma.
My family's from California. Don't hold it against me. I'm from Tennessee. My family's from California, so I've been out to California plenty. Mostly in SoCal and some in the middle portion of California. I've never been up into the north portion of California and seen like the redwoods and all that. but the middle portion of the United States is definitely something I want to go see. Because just like what you were saying, like Utah, Montana, Wyoming, all the like.
Still kind of like the Wild West.
Everybody I've talked to that says they've gone out there
Loved it.
that is the one thing they talk about is the landscape, which I don't know if there's much else to talk about out there, but still,
That's the only thing they have to
still,
talk about.
yeah, but still, like, I mean, you see pictures. Like, I watched all of Yellowstone. I like binge watched it. I was a big fan of that, and like watching the views on that show
It was awesome.
from like Wyoming. Like, dude, I gotta get out there. I gotta get out there and see what all the rant's about. So, but yeah, dude, Utah. So you hunt elk. What's how long is your season for hunting elk? How does that work?
So the way, I mean, here in Utah, the way we do it is we've got our normal season, which starts, it's probably one of the earliest ones. I think it's about mid-August actually, which is again that kind of that prime time for sitting water. And if you've got a setup that you can do that, which is why, I was talking to you a little bit, is because the lightweight setup that CRUZR's got, wanted to pack that in a mile and a half to some water, enough to get off the trail. And you'll notice that about a lot of people out here, they like to ride their four-wheelers around, which are super annoying. And so if you get about a mile and a half to 2 miles off a trail, you start to narrow down those noises and distractions, and you get closer to the animals. And so anyway, I'm again, if it's dry around that August time, it usually is, I'm going to sit water and getting elevated. What people don't understand about elk, and I'm still figuring this out, so don't take me as an expert. I'm nowhere near an expert, guys. I'm not trying to say that at all, but my observations and people that I know that have hunted twice as long as me, elk don't look up, and they're not like whitetail that are used to being hunted from a tree. And so they'll walk right under you as long as you've got your wind right and you've got everything set up the way you need. Like you could set up basically right on a game trail, and they won't look up because they're not used to being hunted from above. Gotcha. Even cougars generally hunt from the ground. They rarely pounce high enough from a tree where you'll be sitting in a tree stand. So,
gotcha.
With that, elk is my, going back to the season dates, it's about mid-August all the way through, I want to say it's the middle to end of September. And then we get a late season. If you go through the archery late season education, you can actually go in and hunt. There's certain dates, just like October, November, or something like that, along those lines. And so that's another opportunity as well. And that's why that's a big reason why I got into archery. I initially started with rifle, had no giant like racks or anything like that, but I had success every single year that I hunted with a rifle. And I was like, okay, I want to step it up a little bit. My buddy
get that next challenge.
Exactly. My buddy needed someone that was actually okay with failure. If you walk away without a punch tag, like not okay with it, but you're not going to be all pissy and throw your bow and all
right. You're not just going to give up.
Yeah. You're not a sore loser, right? Like you learn from the loss rather than being a sore loser about it. So he's the one that got me into it because he hadn't really shot a bow or archery hunted for about 8 years. And so anyway, we got back into it. Now they come to me for gear suggestions and for things like that, because I've got them all to buy new bows now and like all this stuff. And it's been a fun journey, but that's kind of our, going back to the initial question, that's our season date is mid-August to about mid-September, depending on your tag. And that's the over-the-counter archery tag. There's some variations in there where I've started last year, and I'll probably do it again this year, where you can take your over-the-counter tag and go into a limited entry unit, which is the big bull unit. There's different terms for it, but basically it takes a while to draw. You can take that over-the-counter tag, go in there during limited dates and hunt spike and cow only. And so that over-the-counter tag, if you just buy the archery tag, it's about $50. So it's really not that expensive. And to be able to go into a limited entry unit and go scout it out for the years that you're putting in until you finally draw it, then you can get to know that unit like the back of your hand. And hopefully you've filled a couple tags in there. If you're okay with getting a spike, a cow, just fill in the freezer for those couple years. That's kind of my strategy for the next couple years until I draw.
That sounds like a pretty solid strategy. I mean, it gets you in a unit that, I mean, would you say it's like a once in a lifetime draw?
Not so much, but the way they set it up is some units, they basically are. I mean, there's people that have been putting in for 20 plus years that are
Ooh.
still waiting to draw.
Yikes.
In some units. And then there's other units where it's considered limited entry, but like my buddy drew this year with 2 points. So it just depends on the unit.
Gotcha.
And I won't name units specifically because people know if you know, you know, if you don't, you'll figure it out.
Trade secrets.
but yeah. But, you know, if you're okay with eating your pride a little bit, not necessarily going for a big bull, branch antler bull, you go for a spike or cow each year. It's a great way to do it. Great way to get to know some really good units. And you'll lay eyes on some good elk. I mean, this last year.
Which is half the fun.
We got to see some. Yeah. You get to see a lot of good elk and kind of figure out where they're at. So, again, you figure out the unit. And then when you do draw. So, there's a waiting period. So, you draw, which can take however many years depending on the unit. And then you have a waiting period for that animal. So, we have limited entry draws for deer, antelope, and elk. And so once you draw that one animal, then you can start putting in for other limited entry, buck or antelope. If you've been putting in for elk and you draw that, you can't put in for elk again for another, I think it's 5 years.
Man.
So that's the way. Yeah, it's kind of, it's interesting. I feel like Utah does an okay job from what I've seen at managing the herds that we have. It can be frustrating with point creep because I know people that have, there's a guy that was putting in for a specific unit. This was his 19th year, and he was up there with the top points of that unit. Yeah. And he didn't draw, but his son drew with 16 points. So, you know, there's a whole lot of stuff to it. There's really good resources like Hunting Full is a really good option. They'll actually go through and break things down for you if you're looking to put in for points or draws or things like that out west. And you don't want to go through and figure out every single system. Right. Because that's another thing, too. Utah's different from Nevada, is different from New Mexico, is different from Montana, different from Idaho. So
yeah, it can get quite overwhelming.
If you don't want to go waste a ton of your time, you just want to have someone do it. There are definitely people that know what they're doing. That's their literal job. Nice. Is to know, you know, that kind of stuff. So, you know, I'm not affiliated with them. They're just good people. Sure. And they would be someone that I'd recommend for sure.
Sounds like a great tool if you know, like people like us are Eastern hunters are wanting to get out west. Sounds like a pretty good tool to get out there and give it your best shot. So you mentioned earlier about cougars hunting elk. Is that pretty much one of the main predators out there?
Yeah, I mean, bears out here, we don't really have any brown bears, and black bears don't generally take down elk. They will scavenge. Black bears are more scavengers, which I'm sure a lot of Eastern people know this. They go around when elk drop their fawns or their calves, I guess, for elk, and then fawns for deer. They'll run around and they might scoop one or two up, but they don't generally take down elk. They'll go after injured ones or the babies or the weak ones or ones that maybe have been, you know, they're dead and they go in and scoop up the rest of the meat, whatever. But yeah, between cougars and maybe coyotes will group up and maybe take down some deer. I haven't really seen coyotes chasing down elk.
I feel like they don't want to mess with them.
Yeah, and we don't really. I mean, we don't have a wolf problem here. I have yet. You know, it's funny because they say we don't have wolves, but I'm like, okay, well, Idaho has a problem, Montana's got a problem, Colorado's got a problem. I don't think they go to the border that's an imaginary line drawn on a piece of paper.
And say, can't go over there.
We don't want to mess with those Mormons over there in Utah, so we're going to stay over here. Like, I don't think they say that.
Yeah, they don't. So they don't recognize state lines.
Oh yeah.
Dang. Well, so now speaking of predators being a problem, like all the states you just mentioned with the wolves, do you guys have any regulations on hunting predators or cougars, or is that completely legal? I don't know. Are they endangered or anything?
No. So to start with bear is a draw tag. Again, depending on the unit, you could draw every other year. Just depends on what you're going for. We also have pursuit only tags, which are interesting to me. I don't know why you'd want to go out and just pursue a bear without killing it, but you know, to each his own. I think most of those go to like the houndsmen that are training their dogs.
Gotcha.
From what I understand, that's the majority of the people that get those tags. But cougars right now, and this is something I actually don't agree with, and I actually just hopped off a call with Hal and CRWM, which is the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management.
Mm-hmm.
I'd recommend people go and look up those two groups. I feel like a lot of people that have a megaphone, that have a podcast or anything like that, I feel like we could talk more about conservation, and those are two really good groups that actually use your money for what they say they're going to. There's a lot of scummy people out there that don't. Those
Sure.
two groups are really good people that I'd highly recommend people look up. So it's HOWL, HOWL for wildlife, and then CRWM. They're pushing really big right now in Colorado for some things that are going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I will just say, just on that, if you feel like Colorado's really far away from you, it doesn't really affect you, I 100% disagree, because once they do something in one state, it makes it easier for them to do things in another state.
Right.
And what's happening is a lot of people from California have moved to Colorado and are now doing that ballot box wildlife management, where they see a cute puppy like a wolf and they're like, we should never kill them, or we should reintroduce them,
Right.
or whatever you want to call it. And like things like that, where it's not science-based.
Yeah.
So don't take for granted that you have these hunting rights, because they are rights, not just privileges, in my opinion. Go check those two groups out, help out where you can, so it doesn't end up coming to your state and then you have to fight that battle on the defensive. So
Right.
let me get off my soapbox there for
And
a
it's
second.
and it's a losing battle too, because it's just like what you said.
Yeah.
If they allow it in one state, it's going to be a lot easier for another state to pick it up and be like, well, these guys did it, so we should too.
Well, and that's what happened. So California did pass all these things where it's super hard to hunt predators, if at all, now. And now they've all those people have moved to Colorado and are doing the same thing there. And so it's just, it will come to your state, whether it's now, whether it's 5 years from now or 10 years from now. But if you want your kids, grandkids, great grandkids to be able to hunt like you do, and not look back on your times and just think, oh man, those were the golden years, like people are saying now about past hunting times. Well, the reason it's changed is because there wasn't enough action taken. And so right now is the time for you to be able to do that. You can donate time, you can donate money. Hal does a great job of, they pre-do your email for your representative, whoever that representative is. All you have to go through is sign your permission for them to send it, where your location is, so they know who to send it to. And they also have a really good way of getting through those spam filters and blockers that emails are set up for politicians.
Right.
They actually find a way to filter through that, so they actually do get seen and read. So highly recommend those two groups. They're awesome people. With the cougars deal, so I brought up bears. That's a draw tag here in Utah. We have black bears. We don't have brown bears. And I know a lot of people out here understand this, but I'll just say it. Just because it's brown fur doesn't mean it's a brown bear. That's just a color phase black bear. You could have cinnamon bears, which are actually beautiful. They're gorgeous looking bears. But anyway, so we have black bears here in Utah. Coyotes are free game. They actually pay you out a bounty for every coyote you kill. You have to bring them the jaw and I think the scalp, but or you can bring the whole coyote. Depends on whatever you want to do. But it's $50 a head basically. So those are year round, open season, whatever you want.
Sounds like I found a way to pay for my tag.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. It's actually it's not bad. 2 years ago, or maybe it was 3 years ago. Anyway, last time I had a rifle tag for a deer, it was probably 4 or 5 years ago. Jeez, time flies. Anyway,
yes, it does.
I missed a deer on opening day, and I was hiking around for, I think it'd been like 5 or 6 miles at that point up in the mountains. I was coming out, and I was just pissed because I knew why I missed that deer. It was just a stupid mistake. And this coyote runs out in front of me about 150 yards, and I was just pissed. So I just, lifted my rifle up, just, no rest or anything. Boom, little 308 right through the coyote, and I got a little $50 out of it. So, but
made the hunt a little bit more pleasant.
Yeah, exactly. They're considered pests here in Utah. I guess you'd call them pests or rodents, varmints, whatever.
Yeah.
And then Cougars were actually just classified that same way this last year, which I don't agree with. We do have a lot of mountain lions. I would agree with that, but I wish they didn't. So basically, it's open season on mountain lions right now too. If you see one, you can kill it. And
really,
that's
surprising.
And again, I'm not a politician or anything like that, so go look up the specific ruling on it. I think you still have to have a predator license, it's a little course you go online and get certified to hunt predators.
Sure.
But you don't have to buy a tag for cougars at this point. And so to me, you can trap them, you can shoot them, whatever. I have a problem with that because they really are beautiful creatures, and they play a very vital, important role in our ecosystem, and I don't want them eradicated. And now I don't think that's going to necessarily happen, but I feel like the message that was sent by just deregulating it and saying you can just kill them on sight,
it's kind of sending that message.
Yeah, it just says like they're not that important. And honestly, I mean, that's the way I look at coyotes. They're not that important. Like, I know they play a role, but there's so many of them.
They really aren't important.
So,
it's going to be really hard to get rid of coyotes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would agree. They reproduce like rabbits, and they're all over the place. But with cougars, I just feel like I wish they were respected a little bit more. Maybe, and this too for me is like, well, why don't we open up some other ways that we could bring in more revenue? Maybe unlimited tags, but you still have to go buy a tag for $50.
Yeah.
This is what you got to do. You got to go through specific education on what a tom is versus a female, and things like that. Because if you don't go with someone that's educated, and now you're not just going to go walk out in the mountains and find a mountain lion. Like that's not how it works. But knowing the difference between a tom and a female is important to me. It's just like with bear hunting. You want to kill the toms, not the females.
Yeah.
And because you don't know if they've got they've got babies, they've got cubs. And there's a lot of other things that go into that. But if you go with a respected, like houndsman, for example, my buddy killed a cougar 3 years ago, and the houndsman treed 4 cougars before he let him shoot the 5th one, because those initial 4 were females. And he walked him through, like, this is how you can tell the difference, blah, blah, blah. Like, just went through the entire thing with him. And I feel like that education was crucial, because it's hard for people that are uneducated, like myself, on cougars, to know the difference between a tom and a female cat. There's some specific things, but it's not like with a deer where it's like there's antlers or there's not antlers.
A super obvious sign.
Yeah, exactly. So you kind of have to study them a little bit more and once you do know what to look for, it becomes more obvious. But that's kind of how things are here in Utah with predators. Again, I'm sure we have wolves here. I know people that have told me they've seen them, and I haven't seen one with my own eyes in Utah. But I've seen them right on the borders of our state. So they travel for miles and miles and miles and miles. So I'm sure
every single day
they make it. Oh yeah, I'm sure they make it around.
Yeah, it's probably only a matter of time before they start getting into all of Utah.
100%.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure you heard about the whole. I mean, it was a big fight at the end of last year with a bunch of conservation groups and the state of Colorado about reintroducing them in Colorado, the gray wolf reintroduction, which I haven't
that's why
really
I put
followed that
parentheses
too much, but
reintroduction.
Yeah, right. Because were they native? Do you know if they were native?
I don't know.
To Colorado?
So the way I understand it is that specific kind that they introduced, that they brought back in, is not native to Colorado. They're actually a Canadian version of the wolf that they brought in. And it wasn't the native to Colorado one. And so that was a big thing that people were upset about, is like, this isn't the native one. These guys are actually more aggressive. They reproduce more, something along those lines. Like, they're not the native to Colorado that they were kind of making.
It's a different
it sound
strain.
Like they weren't reintroducing anything, because it was never there. They were introducing a new species of wolf. And so that was a big problem. Plus, I mean, again, there were wolves in Colorado, so I don't know. I don't know. This came all back down to the fact that the main places that voted for it are urban places.
Right. The places that don't have to deal with them.
Yeah, and they see these cute, because, I mean, you look at a pup, a wolf pup. He looks like a Belgian Malinois or a German Shepherd puppy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're super cute, and there's little fur balls that you just want to take home with you until you realize
they get big.
to be over
these
6
are
feet tall,
killers.
standing on their hind leg. Oh yeah, they're killers. And not only do they kill, they play with their food.
Yeah,
and people don't understand that.
One of the
either.
smartest predators in the U.S. I'd bet.
Oh yeah, 100%. They work in packs. They really do take down live, and they don't just weed out the weak ones like a black bear would or coyotes do, where they kind of take the leftovers. They will go after strong elk, deer, antelope. I don't know if they chase down an antelope. I'm sure they do though, but
I'm sure they
elk
try.
and deer are probably their main. Yeah, and so that's a big issue. And again, it's just that ballot box wildlife management that I don't think anyone in the hunting community agrees with, because again, it's just these people that are looking at the easy sell, which is it's a cute puppy, it's a harmless animal. Like, they have pictures of wolves yawning and stuff. I'm like, dude, these are like the tame wolves in Yellowstone.
Yeah,
like they're not
That's not the real story
wolves that you're gonna exactly it's like when you look into a wolf's eyes, like just seeing from some people that actually, there's a guy that has a pet wolf. I can't remember his name on social media, but he's raised this thing since it was a puppy. But even that thing, like through a screen, freaks me out, because like you can look into its eyes even through a screen, and it's a killer.
Yeah.
And this guy's like hugging on it, and you can just hear its deep growl.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about. He's got like 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah, it's like a pitch black.
He like talks
wolf.
to him in a
And
baby
I'm like,
voice.
It's like that thing is a thing of like
mass destruction,
horrible dreams
for natural environments. Yeah,
exactly. So I don't know all the stats. I'd say go look them up again. Those 2 organizations that I mentioned have the stats already listed, but I know places like Idaho have been devastated when they put wolves back into certain areas. The elk populations went down significantly,
especially with no hunting regulations. So that's the argument that I saw a lot of people making, is they wanted to reintroduce and expand the different populations of wolves in different states, but they didn't want to put any form of hunting regulations on them. So they have no control. They're able to do whatever they want, and there's no way to monitor their population.
Exactly.
Which to me just sounds like a recipe for disaster.
I'd say all the farmers are pissed too.
Oh, I can only imagine
cattle would
being
be
some
easy
kind
pickings.
of cattle farmer. Yeah, I can't imagine being a cattle farmer. And
so they've already had issues, and I know people. There was 1 or 2 people that I've seen anyway that their dogs, like there's already been some pets that have been taken out of those areas.
Coyotes do that too.
Yeah, and I know cougars do the same thing, like in California right now, which obviously California is very populated, so we are also encroaching on their territory. I want people to understand that I'm not just looking at it from one perspective. I get it. We are pushing into their areas as well, but like there's a video that I just saw. I showed my kids because we've got a little dog, and this coyote jumped the fence and took hold of it was like a schnauzer or something like that by the throat. And luckily the schnauzer like was able to rip out of it or something and got in, and they were able to take him to the vet. But they had it on a Ring camera and in the backyard that this cougar like jumped off the fence and just pounced on this dog in its own backyard. And it was in a city of California. This wasn't like butted up against the mountains. Like this was in a city there. And there's been multiple issues like that. And I don't think people understand, like, if we're catching them on camera now, like they've always been there. They've always been
100%
messing around, and yeah. And so that's what people need to understand is, like, again, they are cute and cuddly. I get it. They're beautiful, majestic creatures, but we also need to understand how they are just born bred killers. That is what they do. They're meant
predators
to survive. 100%. 100%.
They kill for a living. That's what they do.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
yeah, no, I mean it's definitely a problem. It's an ever evolving problem. It's not going away anytime soon. I just think proper regulation, state to state, is gonna have to be the answer. And just like what you said, finding organizations that are fighting the good fight, trying to make good progress for the well-being of not only the animals but also for hunters. So definitely, and of course, if you guys want to hunt, whatever predators you want, obviously, just like what RedBeard was saying, always check your local rules and regulations. Don't break the law. Don't be dumb.
Yeah, don't just go out and start shooting stuff.
Yeah, don't be that guy. But right on. Well, was there anything you had to ask for RedBeard, Hunter?
No, man. Pretty much covered it. It's been a good talk.
Yeah, buddy. Well, RedBeard, I know you said you had to go at a specific time, but we do appreciate you hopping on the pod,
Heck
man.
yeah, dude.
Of course, anytime.
Right on. We'll have to get you back on. This one was a little brief, but we'll get you back on. We'll dive into some other topics. I know because you're affiliated with First Form, right?
Of course, First Form Outdoors is a branch of First Form, and it's just an amazing community. I'd love to actually hit on that too in a podcast. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, man, absolutely. We'll touch on that a little bit later. I was actually talking to somebody at First Form Outdoors a couple weeks ago, so I'd love to get you back on the pod here pretty soon and go over some more stuff. And yeah, is there any last words that you want to give to any of our listeners?
Yeah, I don't know when this is going to air, but if it's before June 7th, is it going to be before June 7th?
Yeah, it'll be going live tomorrow morning.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to send you guys a link that you can put in the description there. We've got
Awesome.
Speaking of First Form, we have an amazing opportunity for people, Easterners, Western guys, whatever, an antelope hunt up in Wyoming, or Montana, a Montana antelope hunt that valued over $9,000. You get your tag, you get a new Weatherby rifle, you get a new scope, and a crap ton of First Form stuff, some of our new camo that we've put out, just a whole bunch of stuff, plus lodging, food for, I think it's 3 or 4 days, all of that, no purchase required. We've got this Hunt of a Lifetime sweepstakes going on, so I recommend people get into that. I'm going to send the link over if you guys are okay with putting that in there.
Sure. Yeah, brother, send it on over.
For people that want to get in on this giveaway or sweepstakes. There's some legal technical difference there, but it's a sweepstakes. Just no purchase required for you guys. So I want you guys to get in on that and get involved with the First Form Outdoors community, because there's people from the East Coast, like our CRUZR guys. Got people from, actually, you guys are in Texas.
Tennessee.
Why am I getting all this mixed up? Okay, so you are East Coast, my East Coast guys. And then you've got your East Coast guys, you got West Coast guys in our community. People that just want to genuinely get better and not just have all this infighting, which we also find a lot in the hunting community, crossbows versus bows and rifles versus bows and like all this other crap. Like, just come together, get outside, go enjoy it. As long as it's legal, go have a great time.
Absolutely.
And share your experiences. And that's what we're all about. So check that out down below. And just want you guys to get in on that so you can hopefully win and take your family out to Montana.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
That sounds like a great opportunity. So for all of our CRUZR Radio listeners, be sure to check the description underneath the video here and be sure to sign up. Who knows? You can't win if you don't enter.
Exactly.
Right on. Well, RedBeard, we appreciate you hopping on, and we'll catch you on the next one, guys.